What do you need to start a podcast on YouTube? I'm Nick Natarella with AdWise Creative, and there's a lot of stuff that you do have to kind of consider before you get into shooting videos, editing videos, and stuff like that. It can be overwhelming. It really can be. But I like to make that step 3 or 4 down the road. Let's start with the simple stuff and get you up and running, plus a quick little trick that's going to help you in the long run. Okay, here we go. Now, by the time this video is done, you're going to know a lot of these hidden costs that can turn around and bite you. Anything from cameras to lighting to microphones and editing software and all that kind of stuff. Yes, it can be overwhelming, but we're going to break it down for you, maybe even get you up and running for free. So stay tuned. Let's jump into it. Oh, and plus I'm going to show you my one trick that can 10x your results with the same amount of effort. Ready? Let's go. So if you're thinking about a podcast on YouTube for your business, obviously you're thinking a little bit more than audio. You're thinking video as well. Not to scare you off, but you've just stepped into a whole mess of stuff, if that's what you really want to do. It is very doable. Don't get me wrong. In fact, I'm going to show you a couple things that you can do and maybe even get started for free. Probably by the time you're done watching this video, you can go shoot your very first episode. You ready? So let's talk cameras. There's a mess of cameras out there. Yes, you're going to need a camera, especially if we're talking YouTube here. There are a mess of cameras out there, anything from the one you have in your pocket, i.e. your smartphone, all the way up to a DSLR mirrorless, or maybe even if you really want to blow the budget, I mean, you can get a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 camera. You don't need it. Like I said, you can probably get started for free with your smartphone. There's tons of options on there. There are a couple give and takes. I would tell you to slowly build up to a DSLR, mirrorless or something like that. When you get to that point, you know the process and you understand what's going on. But when you go from smartphone to DSLR, you've stepped into a whole mess of buttons, knobs, and switches and options and things like that. Let's get the basics out of the way, and then you'll be able to build from there. So very easily, start with the free one, your smartphone. Might need a couple other pieces of equipment like a tripod or maybe even one of those little spring-loaded grabbers to hold your smartphone on there. And once you're done with that, you could either do a full-size tripod that's going to stand on the ground or just get one of the short ones that goes on a desktop, something like that. That would get you started easily. It may be dictated by where you're going to shoot your videos. Let's say if you're in the office, okay, maybe facing the desk, just put the tripod on the desk, would be a good background. But maybe the desk itself would be a good background, so you're probably going to need a full-size tripod to shoot in front of you. Whatever it takes, keep that into consideration, especially what room you're in. Now for lighting, there are several things that you can do with some very simple lighting. There's a fancy 3-light setup that you can do. And this doesn't have to be expensive lights. There's some things on, say, Amazon. You can probably pick up 2 or 3 lights for less than $100, $125, and you'll have the 3 lights. You could also accomplish it with a 3-way light from your living room. Just take the shade off and crank it up. You also have some options there. Put one light full, maybe another light about halfway, and then a little something in the background could be full as well. And that gives you a really neat lighting effect. You've got a nice bright area over here. This light from over here, I don't know if you can see, but I do have shadow on my face. It's just not a harsh, like a daytime coming through the sun shadow, a sharp shadow, but it's been softened by the light that's over here. And then of course you can see the lights in the background that kind of give me this little halo effect from time to time if I'm sitting right. Those 3 lights, that's a really dramatic effect. And then there's another simple effect you can do with just one light, whether it be sunlight coming through the window, maybe stepping outside underneath a tree, or in a living room or something like that, in a living room, in an office, somewhere with one light sitting right next to you. A little bit off camera. It can be a ring light or something like that, $35 for a ring light, or like I said, snag a free one out of the living room. If you set it up just right off to the side, your nose is going to cast a shadow and your cheek is going to cast a shadow, but you'll have this little triangle of light right over here. That's called Rembrandt lighting. or Rembrandt effect. Yes, it goes all the way back to the 1600s. Take a second, Google Rembrandt portraits, and you'll see that little triangle on one side of the subject's face over and over and over again. Very dramatic, striking look that you can do probably with some lights you've already got, with a light you've already got. So try that, experiment with that. Location-wise, we've mentioned the desk in your office, we've mentioned the living room. Try to find some place that maybe shows a little bit of your personality. And this is gonna be one of those things, but it doesn't have to be too cluttered, okay? You don't want it really cluttered, because that ends up being distracting and people are trying to see, oh, what's he got on that bookcase back there? You don't want that to be the focus. You don't want that to steal focus from what you're gonna be doing. Second of all, let's get back to the cameras. When it comes to a setup like this, your cell phone, your smartphone, can't blur the background like this DSLR can. I'm shooting with a DSLR right now. That can blur the background for you, and that really helps make you the subject of the video. So keep that in mind. Like I said, it's okay to start with it. Let's build some things up, maybe even land a client or two. Once you've got a little revenue coming in, feel free to upgrade your gear. As far as microphones are concerned, there's several that you have to choose from. I don't know if you can see, but the little lavalier that I'm using right now, that's a great source for a backup. For a backup. The actual source of the audio in this particular case is coming through the camera itself. Their small Rode makes a great shotgun mic that points directly at you, and it has a very tight pickup pattern, so it's not getting all this noise in the background. And you can't see it, but just out of the top of this shot is a third microphone as a backup. So I have one source and two backups actually. What does that tell you? It tells you that if something can go wrong, it probably will in the audio. And I just experienced this last week. I speak from experience. So if you can, try to get at least one backup, if not two backup audio sources between your primary and two backups. It's just a smart thing to do. And then for video editing, now that you've shot all this footage, you got to chop out the mistakes and put a few elements to it in the video. Start with something that's free. A great one is probably the one that's already on your phone. If you're going to shoot with your phone, there's a good chance you already have video editing software on your phone. Start with that. And the reason why I strongly suggest that is because you're going to get a much better feel for the whole editing process without being distracted by, say, desktop software that's going to blow your mind the first time you double click on that icon. One in particular that I use for all of my stuff, honestly, I skipped past the app because I'm just so used to multi-track editing with my audio background. But video background, you've got several video tracks, several audio tracks, and you're looking at them all at the same time. That can be a bit overwhelming. There are several out there that are free. In fact, you might even have one loaded on your computer already, whether it's a Mac or a PC. They come loaded with some editing software, some very basic editing software. Now, if you want some really precise controls, you might want to upgrade to a suite of editing products. There are free ones. Believe it or not, there are free ones. Very powerful free ones. The first one that springs to my mind is DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve has two forms, free and $2.95. But we'll get into that in just a second. There are others that have a one-time payment. DaVinci Resolve Studio for $295. Then there are others like Adobe Premiere Pro. They come with a monthly subscription. So depending on how you want to do it, but then the flip side of especially with Adobe, is they also have Adobe Audition. Audition is their audio software, and the two, Audition and Premiere Pro, they play very well together. Tweaking your audio for your videos is a really, really efficient way to do it with Audition and Premiere Pro. So with video editing software, you've got free, you've got one-time payment, and you've got ongoing subscription. Depends on what your needs are, how you plan on using it, and what fits your budget the best. This is a really quick overview, and I've already taken several minutes just to blast through this equipment. I do this on a regular basis, and we'll go into lighting more in depth. We go into cameras more in depth, editing software. I even show you some editing techniques, so be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, because all of that, I've got several already posted, and there's more coming. So setting up your business YouTube channel is going to be a breeze. Like and subscribe and pass it on. Who else do you know needs this link? We'll get it all covered for them, no problem. To actually turn your YouTube channel into a podcast playlist is very simple. It's just a quick click, as a matter of fact. See, everybody wants to get in on the podcast craze, including the video people. So they want to be able to capitalize on the podcast world as well. They've made this very simple. You can set up playlists. For example, I would set up playlists regarding podcasts or YouTube channels or blogging or maybe microphones and lighting equipment. Separate playlists for each one of those topics. What you want to do is find one video on your channel that you want to turn into your video podcast. Right click on it. You're going to get the drop down menu and it'll ask you what playlist you want to turn into a podcast. Pretty simple. Now, I promised you my number one tip to make your video podcast and your audio podcast really easy. So you're going to record the video, you're going to edit it down, you throw your intro and your outro on there, maybe even some background music, good stuff like that. You got it all rendered out, everything's fine, mix it down, there's your YouTube video. Go back to your software. There may be an option to mix the audio only. You see where this is going? You click on that, set your parameters, tell it to render, and you have your podcast, your legitimate audio podcast episode ready to go. You edited one thing, and you got your YouTube and your podcast, your video and your audio in just a simple couple extra clicks. Boom, you got it done. Now go out and make some content. How about that? Now, to really launch you and to take a shortcut to success, a friend of mine, Nate Woodbury, has given me a couple copies of his book, A Hero's Guide to Influence on YouTube. Get this book. Click in the description down below and get your copy. This is one of those shipping and then pay printing and stuff like that, and it'll be sent out to you immediately. This covers everything from the beginning to end. Look at this. Everything is in this book, from SEO research to thumbnails to uploading to YouTube. All that stuff is covered right here to set up your video podcast, your business video YouTube channel for success. Get your copy right now. Click below and it'll be on its way. I'm Nick Natarella with AdWise Creative. Thank you for watching.